everyone, back to the Hot Chai Pod. I'm your host, Jazz, and today we've got a lot on the docket while we cover the old Bollywood news and gossip. But before that, per usual, let's do a little catch up, get personal. So let's see, I had a pretty busy week. I feel like it went by so quick. It's finally getting really hot in LA, so that's my favorite time of year, and my dogs. And it just makes it so much more motivating to go out at night and not feel like you're gonna freeze or get too lazy or whatever. So bit the bullet. I went to this random tech networking event in Santa Monica on Saturday night, and unusual for a networking thing, right? But it was marketed more as a launch party for this new startup space or initiative, and um it was absolutely not that, and it was not cool. So when my friends and I walked in, it was basically 90% tech bros just staring you head on. And yes, there was a DJ, but the music was really quiet. It was like a hotel lobby or something. And there was this cool AI photo booth. And so, my facial data is probably being sold around, but isn't Meta doing the same thing? So, needless to say, the event was a flop, but the open bar, I'll take a couple free drinks. Not gonna complain too much about it. The rest of the weekend, I was really unproductive, and I binged this old FX show called The Tyrant. So it's loosely based on the dictatorship and politics of Syria, but in a fictional country called Abu Din. And so the show was pretty interesting, but it did get canceled after 3 seasons. I think they just didn't have the viewership numbers. The premise is that there's two brothers, one who's currently the president after his dad was president, so almost like a dynasty. And then the younger brother lives as a doctor in America with his wife and kids, which is not far off from Bashar al Assad, who was a doctor. And then after his brother, who was president of Syria, dies, he goes and takes over as president and has been a really horrible dictator president ever since. But anyway, so in the show, again, very similar to that, younger brother moves back and does try to oust his brother from power. I won't dwell on the rest of the plot, if you want to watch it, go ahead. But the weirdest thing about this show, and I feel like I have to talk about it, is that it's supposed to be an Arab country, right? With Arab leaders and characters and people. And yet, the guy who's the main character, they cast a white English actor to play this American brother. And he's not American, right? He's an Arab guy who just went to school in America. So it's very strange and not really believable. And whenever the main guy speaks, especially when he's speaking to his brother who's currently in power, right, in the show, that guy is a Palestinian actor with a normal Arab accent and suits the role really well. And then he's talking to this guy who sounds just like me, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And it takes you out of the show because it's just wait, what's going on? And just takes you out of the whole setting of being in this cool world. And yeah, I think production did such a bad job with this, and maybe that's why the show wasn't as popular, or maybe if it were more popular, this would have been a point of contention because it's a little weird. It's kind of racist, in a subtle way. It's like when they cast Scarlett Johansson to play a Japanese character. If you're struggling with casting that much, then maybe you should postpone the series, the show, the movie, because it's bizarre to have an English guy with blue eyes who's super tanned, probably spent weeks and weeks getting spray tanned to pretend to be Arab. And I find it weird. They could have even used, an Iranian actor or a Pakistani actor, and I think yes, it's not Arab, but it would have felt a little bit more believable. But anyways, let's dive in. Hot chai of the week. I will say, it's been a bit of a slower week, so probably a shorter episode today because many of the Bollywood celebrities were on the Ambani Cruise. And of course, the election was the main story in the news, so gossip and stuff has kind of been a little less at the forefront. But we do have a couple things. So the second pre-wedding event happened, we mentioned, for Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant, and it was that cruise going around Italy, and I didn't actually see them in the south of France, so I don't know if that was fake news or maybe they just didn't post about it or maybe I just didn't see it. But this cruise was really different compared to the Jamnagar parties, that first pre-wedding event. It didn't seem like they did any repeat of performances from the Bollywood folks, so nothing from Shahrukh or Salman or whatever. It just seemed a lot more casual, and most importantly, we barely saw any photos or videos. I saw Katy Perry performing, I saw the Backstreet Boys performing on the cruise, so that's pretty cool. I didn't know that they were still performing, but actually maybe I did. I think they may have went on tour or something. And I also saw Ranveer Singh and Ananya Pandey just like dancing late night on stage, casual. She's in like a gray shirt or something, kind of sweaty. So like very casual vibes. Like I didn't see any like blockbuster outfits. It just felt like people were on vacation, which is kind of fun. But also kind of weird and unnecessary, I guess. I tried to track the fashion. I didn't see any like full reveals or outfits from Ali Abad, Gauri Khan, whatever. I was trying to. The only stop that seemed to get more press was their late night party when the Ambanis rented out all of Portofino. You know, this lovely, lovely seaside town in Italy. More on that later. But I think a large part of the privacy was that there was not a lot of press invited on the ship. And so most photos were posted from guests themselves. And maybe that was a conscious decision because people are like living on the ship. So it's like very invasive, for however long it was. It's a little invasive to have press there, like paparazzi when you're waking up and going to breakfast and stuff. I don't know. That's just my hypothesis. But we did get at least one interesting piece of gossip from the whole cruise. So that guy Ori, who like hangs around everyone and I think is basically a Trustafarian, posted on his Instagram story from the cruise. And in the background, like with the audio, you could hear Ananya Pandey saying she's so miserable or something. She's like, I'm so miserable, or I'm so upset, or I'm having a horrible time, something like that. And it's so shady that Ori would post that and like keep that up. But it's also funny because that's one of the only juicy scoops from this whole event. If you remember last week, I was most curious about how this would go between Ananya and Aditya Roy Kapoor post breakup to be like trapped on this cruise. I cannot imagine. And I did see one photo of him standing kind of near her, but also near Shraddha Kapoor and her boyfriend. But maybe they were just talking or being cordial. But I don't know. I still maintain that I wish she wouldn't be so sad about losing him. But she's young. She'll see. There's lots of fish in the sea. She just has to be patient. I think she's only like 27 or something. So yeah. And I guess speaking of hookups, so also Janvhi Kapoor was there with her boyfriend, Shikhar Parahia, if I'm saying that. Parahia? Yeah. He's a polo player, but mostly I think he's just a rich kid. I think his dad is super rich, so good for her. Hope she doesn't stay too long in Bollywood. Might be time to retire. Looks like her movie, Mr. and Mrs. Mahi, I don't know if it was getting a lot of appreciation from the fans now that it's out. I still have yet to see it. It wasn't playing at a theater near me, so stay tuned on that. But yeah, not a lot of hit movies under her belt right now. So I think marrying rich is a smart move for her, and not in a mean way. Gotta have a plan B. Just PDA with him, feeding him. So wouldn't be surprised if they end up getting engaged soon. So that would be cute. But speaking of cute, I would say the cutest pictures from the event showed, Shah Rukh Khan and Ranveer Kapoor chatting. I think we got a glimpse of Raha. Love to see her. Gorgeous baby. Suhana, Ananya, Shania all hanging out. Sara Ali Khan and her brother Ibrahim posing in their outfits. Also, famous, legendary Andrea Bocelli performed, which he did at Kim Kardashian's wedding to Kanye West. And he also sang at Kourtney Kardashian's wedding, and Kim was super annoyed. And yes, actually, Kourtney Kardashian also got married in Portofino, but I don't think that they rented out the whole town. But anyways, so this is a little bit of tea. I read a few Italian newspaper articles translated and some social media comments of Italians, locals complaining about all the noise in Portofino the night of the Ambani party. I guess many were annoyed that they were able to rent out this entire harbor area like that. But the shopkeepers, restaurant owners, they did get about 2 months' notice, and each shopkeeper was paid like $10,000 or something for that night. And I think a few of the restaurants or shops had little stalls open, or some stayed open that everyone could kind of go in and enjoy it, basically without any other tourists there. And I've been to Portofino actually, and I mean, it's one of the most stunning places I've ever been to in my life. It's very magical. So good on them for being able to rent it out. I will say that that was a very classy move, and I'm sure it was really fun for everybody to just kind of enjoy the town with that kind of privacy. But I'm sure they usually have privacy anyways as Bollywood celebrities. It's not like they're being harassed when they're on vacation in Europe. Okay, is it a little tacky to rent out Portofino and have a party all night long? Maybe, but I actually will defend this. I think this was more of a case of kind of the Italians being slightly racist about Indians, turning their city into some sort of event or wedding. And yes, that's a bold statement. And yes, there was a lot of noise, but that should have been an issue their police or government enforced, who were probably paid off and did not care. So, don't call it a takeover. A few other hotshot topics for today. So, regarding the speculation about Ranveer Singh leaving the film Rakshas abruptly, finally, there was a joint statement put out between his team and the producers saying that they amicably parted ways. So we got this formal announcement that, yes, Ranveer is no longer on the film. Now, we know that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. There were some salacious items about rumors like that, oh, he slept with a crew member or he was doing drugs and that's why he was kicked out of the movie. But I think those are baseless. I mean, they seem pretty nasty, and he's worked on many, many movies before, so that just doesn't track. And I'm actually more inclined to believe the rumors that he was being a diva, asking for star treatment, racking up the expenses for the film, and kind of breaking the customs for how some of these South films are made, or even just a normal Bollywood budget. I will say, although I'm a Ranveer Singh fan, this is a bad move. If your other movies have been shelved, I'm not really sure what's on his lineup right now. And I think it's time to be humble, be a team player, and just hope to produce some really good work. I think when you make it about everything else and the perks and the stardom, you lose sight of the fact that, hey, actually acting and putting out good movies, that's your bread and butter. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he was disagreeing with the artistic direction or the script choices as they started filming. I mean, that can happen, but what we do know is there are talks that Vicky Kaushal may be taking his place in the film, so that could end up being a very big opportunity for Vicky, and I know he has a couple other interesting projects lined up, so hey, maybe next year will be his year. Archie's jump scare part two seems to be confirmed that Kushi Kapoor and Vidang Raina, who were in the Archies together, are still dating. Unexpected couple. I'll say I'm excited to see him in Jigra with Alia Bhatt. That's coming up. I don't think he's playing her love interest, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's playing her brother or something. But is this how outsiders get ahead in Bollywood? Trying to kind of connect or date an insider? Like, Siddharth Malhotra, like, yes, he was with Alia Bhatt for a little bit, but his big connection into the industry was Karan Johar, who became like his champion and his friend, and that was really like smart and strategic of him. We saw Siddhant Chaturvedi with Navi Ananda. I mean, it, look, is it so unbelievable that these couples would just get together, or like Vidang Raina would be interested in Kushi Kapoor? I don't know. Maybe it's a case of opposites attract. There's someone on one hand, an outsider, someone who's struggled, versus being with somebody who's had everything handed to them, and maybe it's exciting. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if this couple makes it. Doubt it, but I'm a cynic. On the other hand, speaking of happy couples, we have exciting news from Varun Dhawan and his wife, who just had their first baby. They had a baby girl. So, congrats to them. And excited to see what name they choose. We know that in Hollywood and Bollywood, there's a certain pressure to pick a unique glamour name. Raha, anyone? It's kind of a made up name, but I like it a lot. Finally, looks like Kira Mundi has been renewed for a second season on Netflix. This surprised me, but also, I guess it didn't surprise me. I saw so much commentary online, whether it was positive or negative. I saw it on Instagram all over. I saw it on Reddit. I saw articles about it. I saw Tahasha and Aditi Ralkari at Ken, and so maybe it did better than I really expected. And whether people liked it or hated it, even if you're hate watching something, that translates to eyeballs, right? So that's good for Netflix. And I will say this, my mom said the show was a little slow, slightly confusing at first, but ultimately she liked it a lot and she was very happy by the end of it. So I might have to finally give in and watch it one of these days. But side note, I think the most entertaining press that's come out of Hiramandi is with Sanjay Leela Bhansali's niece, Charmin, who played the character of Alamzab, and people have been roasting her online. I saw somebody dress up their dog in like jumkas and whatever, and saying, "Look, the dog has more expressions than her." And I don't know, it's been crazy to see how much people hate her. Even her co-stars hate her, and I can see why. I saw she was pretty nasty and disrespectful in her interviews, but for everyone else online, is it because they saw these interviews, or is it just because she's like a Nepo, or was she really that bad in the show? So I wonder if she'll be in next season as well, or if she'll stand down. I heard her family is super wealthy, and so maybe SLB feels like he doesn't want to sour the connection, so to speak. And today we close up with our teacup time. Today we have a question from a listener in Chicago. Love that. Okay, so here it is. So, dear Jazz, last week you hinted at the rumors about Ranveer Kapoor and his extramarital escapades. I was wondering why we don't see pictures or how come other people don't spot them if a celebrity's having an affair. Okay, this is a great question. I think, and this has been discussed a lot, right? Like other people have said this maybe, or I've thought this. And so I think that celebrities, especially who are high profile, they know how to stay discreet. If they're hooking up with random people, they might have them sign NDAs, for instance. I don't know if that's a thing in India, actually. I need to check on that. But definitely in the US, that's like a major thing, especially for like professional athletes and stuff to have NDAs signed before they hook up with someone or cheat on their wife. Very interesting, I know. Um, I think on the other hand, even without an NDA, the participating party, they don't want that negative attention from being, scandalous. Like it doesn't actually do them any favors to be like publicly shamed or be the other woman. If we were, I guess in terms of the privacy and discretion, if we remember after the whole Aryan Khan scandal, Shah Rukh Khan was able to stay out of public view as much as he wanted. He used back entrances to places, he took different cars. It's just, also there's an element of the staff around hotels, and they're trained to be really respectful of guest privacy, but especially for a celebrity, so that the hotel is trustworthy and they keep coming there. But the flip side is, I usually do see that it's those working around these celebrities who have the most tea on them. And so they'll usually either tell a friend or send in their own blind items or speak to journalists, anonymously. And sometimes those stories don't come out in mainstream media or press because the entertainment journalists don't want to have any bad blood and lose access to celebrities' exclusives, whether that's a story or photo or paparazzi moment. And that's happened with Taylor Swift, for instance. She's refused to do press with certain media companies that have been critical of her or her albums. So then it's kind of left to the less reputable sources to publish the most salacious news. And everyone just kind of has to take it with a grain of salt and speculate and wonder if it's true. And that's, I mean, even here on this podcast, that's also what I try to do is deliver information, but play out whether it's legitimate or not, dissect it, but leave room for interpretation because it's ultimately like an unsolved mystery. It's like a mystery novel. So with that, let's keep looking for clues. I will leave you all until next week. Bye.